If you were a kid within the last 30 years, there's a strong chance that you recognize this iconic team. Their names are Jessie and James, and they are members of the villainous organization, Team Rocket. They, along with their sentient meowth, seek to steal Pokémon and serve their leader, Giovanni. Their villainy is evident to the average viewer. That being said, each of these characters has a backstory filled with tragedy. They are villains, yes, but before that, they were victims. First, this is the backstory of James. James was born into a wealthy family. In today's culture, that's all some need to hear about James to decide he could not have possibly had a difficult upbringing. All the same, it was. James was forced from childhood to be proper and formal at all times and all occasions. His parents saw him as a reflection of themselves, and they demanded perfection. In addition to this, James was engaged to a girl his parents picked for him before he was an adult. Initially, he thought his life with her could work. However, as they spent time together, his view changed. She was controlling, overbearing, and engulfed in the high society of his parents. She would be a prison for him. James began to act out, behaving like a child. He would, however, find comfort in his best friend and Pokémon pal, Growlithe. More on that in a minute. We can infer more details about James growing up from how he is when he arrives in the anime. For example, we find that James never learned how to ride a bike. He also, along with Jessie, received low marks at school. Eventually, James decided he could not face the life he was trapped in any longer. He fled from his parents and his betrothed. Harder still, James needed someone to look after his parents and had to leave his Growlithe behind. Even throughout the anime, James' parents and his former fiancée wait and plan to bring him home and entrap him, quite literally in one episode. Hence, he may never return, and he may never be reunited with his Growlithe. James joined Team Rocket not because he felt the need to dominate the world, but because through Team Rocket, he was free. He had the ability to travel, find Pokémon, make friends, and be himself. While James is still a bad guy, he's probably one of the most likable bad guys there are. He comes from a hard place, and he's demonstrated on more than one occasion that he doesn't really want to be the villain. In fact, we at Berry Bear are suspicious that this Team Rocket gang may forfeit some of their matches on purpose. But for more on that, subscribe, click the bell, and keep watching. Next on our list is Jessie. Jessie's life was different in many ways from James, but nonetheless just as difficult. Her mother, Miyamoto, was a well-established member of Team Rocket. At just 5 years old, her mother left her in foster care in order to hunt and record the voice of Mew. Apparently, there were times where Jessie suffered from such lack that she was required to eat snow to survive. Growing up, Jessie attempted a variety of things to take care of herself. She auditioned to be a singer, she attended nursing school, and tried her hand at modeling. None of these lasted. In addition to this, there are references made throughout the anime to a myriad of broken and bad romances Jessie had been caught up in. In time, Jessie ended up in the same business as her mother. The same organization that had allowed her to fall between the cracks as a small child was now her family. Giovanni, Team Rocket's leader, became someone Jessie deeply feared letting down. In conclusion, Jessie is a character which does awful things, and yet is hard to hate. She is a bad guy, but she is one, in her view, out of necessity. Both of these characters have another side to them beyond their villainy, and it's worth noting. What do you think? Are Jessie and James bad guys all the way through? And what about Meowth? What's his deal? Well, subscribe and keep watching to find out.